Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Breakthrough Show. I'm so excited to share with you a very special guest today. And my question for you to start us off is if you feel like you have been able to combine all the different parts of who you are and be all of those things, or if you feel like you've had to segment them out. I'm very excited to talk to our guest today. So let's get started with an all new episode of The Breakthrough Show. Hello, everyone, and happy Friday to you. I'm so excited to be here with you for another episode of The Breakthrough Show today. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I'm thrilled that we are being joined today by a truly inspiring individual. His journey is one of faith, identity, and profound leadership, showing us how embracing our true calling can illuminate the path not just for ourselves, but for others as well. As an esteemed coach and mentor, he has dedicated his life to guiding Christian entrepreneurs to step into their identity, find their community, and embrace their calling. His work transcends the ordinary, reaching into the extraordinary realms of spiritual fulfillment and purpose driven living. We love that here. In today's episode, Grounded in Faith, we delve into his personal story of overcoming challenges through faith, his mission to empower others, and how integrating faith into every aspect of life can lead to unparalleled breakthroughs. Without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to our special guest today, Dale Young. Dale, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I'm honored to be here.
So excited to finally get to meet up with you. We were supposed to do an episode of My Way, and then things changed for me, and then things changed for you. And then it just worked out to have you here on the main stage of the Breakthrough Show, which I'm thrilled about today because as I was saying before we came on air, I'm so inspired by your journey because as a person who feels like I have more facets of myself to mention than I have time for in any given show. I sometimes feel held back a little bit by that I'm afraid to combine things like my work and my faith together, which I feel like you've done so beautifully. So I'm thrilled to tell your story here on the show today. Let everybody know where you're joining from and just whatever little mini part about yourself that you want everybody to know today.
I am joining from the west side of Fort Worth, Texas, and it's a beautiful sunny day here. Finally getting over a little bit of clouds and a little bit of coolness. For myself, I've worked in IT for 4 decades and transitioned into coaching. And on the personal side, I was married for almost 30 years, ended in a terrible divorce, which I'm not proud of, but that's the way it actually ended up. And then 5 years later, I met my new bride, and it'll be 3 years in June that we'll have been together. And so never had kids from the first one, but had kids from the second one, 3 kids and 4 grandkids. So, yeah.
Love it. So exciting. And I think sometimes that's such a what you're sharing about, things going a certain way in your life, then being sort of disappointed by how they ended up. I'm always reminded of that song, Unanswered Prayers by Garth Brooks. And then the line is sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. It's like we don't expect things to go a certain way, but then when they do, we're like, well, I couldn't imagine it any other other way. I'm so glad it turned out that way.
Absolutely.
Um, I love it. I love it. So listen, I would love to ask you before we get into your story, what does the word breakthrough mean to you? Does it have meaning in your life? And I'm going to assume because you're on this show, you've had several of them.
I've had plenty of them.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. So, yes. Breakthrough to me, I'd say one of the best definitions is getting out of your comfort zone. And you can fall into a comfort zone so easily that, it's just one of those things that sneaks up on you. And I really don't think a comfort zone actually exists. I think a comfort zone is more of a rut, and a rut is nothing more than a grave with the ends knocked out. So,
Ooh,
so
he's
you
starting
think.
us off thick already here, you guys. I
So
love it.
breakthroughs are when you get out of your comfort zone, and lots of times, just uh, to me, when the Lord says move, you need to move.
Mm.
And so, first time I hear Him say move, I say, okay, what comfort zone am I in, and how do I get out of it? Because I've done the opposite, and I've just stayed in there for too long. And I believe God cares more about your calling than your comfort. And so he's
Mm.
going to get you out of the comfort zone one way or the other. But you can go willingly, or you can go kicking and screaming.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I think we've covered everything. But okay, so it's so many good points already here today, Dale. And it's so true. And I love what you're sharing about, you being a person that's like, go, it's go time, because I have always felt that within myself. And in fact, I've told this story before where I was helping out with a church that I was involved with, and they were trying to make some changes, and I had had experience in the changes before, but because of church politics and I wasn't on payroll, it was a lot of like la 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 when Jessica would talk. But my whole thing was like when I would share these ideas, I would feel like such that calling, that drive from, I felt like from God to be like, this go do here, here's what you do and do it. And I kept hearing back, well, we're gonna pray about it. We're gonna think about it. We're gonna waffle on and, and not do the things we need to do. And I just felt this like such a big calling to do it. And I ended up using the phrase, pray without ceasing, yes, but God gives you hands and feet for a reason. Like,
Mhm,
go.
mhm.
Go. Have you always sort of felt that way, or is this part of like your story that you're going to share with us a little bit today?
It's not something I did naturally as a kid. I was just a laid back, go along, get along type of person. And that led me into comfort zones that were really deep. I
Mm,
actually did not become a Christian, a Christ follower, until 1998. So
wow.
it was fairly late in life for myself. But looking back, I can see God's fingerprints over my whole life. And it's like, I'm just so blessed.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited to dive into your story today, Dale. We've got a lot to cover in a very little bit of time. Plus, I'm very excited. Thank you so much for my copies of your books that you sent, by the way. I've got a couple here. I get to be Vanna White today. Next Level Your Life, as well as The Transformational Journey, which both of those tell me breakthroughs in in the title. So make sure you
Mhm.
guys get your hands on those. We're going to take a quick break and come back and dive into the story of Dale Young. We'll be right back after this.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. It is Friday, April 12th, 2024, and I'm so thrilled to be here today with our special guest, Coach Dale Young. We're going to add that coach in there for a little fire today. Love it. I'm excited to dive into a little bit of your story. You started telling us a little bit before the break of how you had become a Christian several years ago, but not until later on in life. And so tell us a little bit about what that time was like for you, Dale.
So I did not grow up in a Christian household. I'd actually, at age 25, I'd actually prayed the prayer, but I had no life change. So I had no fruit. I had nothing that would indicate to anybody external that I was a Christian. I was still living the way I'd been living before. But then in 1998, had started going to a church because my wife had suggested, let's go to a church. And I said, well, I guess that's what Christians do. You know, if you're a car, you go in the garage. If you're a Christian, you go to church, right? So,
I love that.
so I said, okay, we'll do that. And we had actually gotten to a point where we were getting into the church pretty well. And a member of the church, his son OD'd, and they had his funeral there. And it was at that funeral that it was something that I really heard the message, the gospel message, in a way that went from just an intellectual knowledge down to my heart and just really impacted me. And so I turned my life over. I started making changes. I started, actually paying attention in church, learning stuff, started getting into a Bible study, all these types of things. And so much so that, and just 4 years later, I was helping out with the Billy Graham Metroplex Mission Crusade that was down here in Texas at the time. And it was here for 4 nights, and I was there all 4 nights. Most nights, all except one night, I was doing 2 jobs for them. So I was just really diving in. I'm a person that, at least since then, once something gets a hold of me, I'm going to just dive in and just dive into the deep end of the pool and let's see what happens.
Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that part of your journey, because I think many of us, even if we grew up in the church, we're kind of just following whatever our parents and our grandparents or whoever else are telling us to do. My grandfather was also my godfather at birth, and so he felt very responsible for, making sure that I went to church. Even if he didn't want to go, he was like, this is my responsibility. Jessica goes to church. She goes to Sunday schools. She goes to the whole thing, and makes all her sacraments, because I grew up Catholic. And so I think we all kind of go through the motions maybe in the beginning. And then I love that you had that moment that woke you. What do you think it was about that particular moment that woke you up?
When I look back on it, it's just the case of seeing a body up, seeing a coffin up on stage and realizing that we are more than what just our body is. There's going to be something beyond us. And so just hearing that we had the option, we had the choice to be with God in heaven or not. And if and of course I'd grown up in a family that talked about hell and damnation a lot. So, I did not want to be there. I did not want to go there for sure. So it was one of those things where I just said, oh, I've got a choice. Okay, well, I'm choosing life. So, yeah.
I love it. And that was, interestingly enough, my big wake up moment as well was when my brother passed away, and seeing that death will change you. It really will, in many ways, whether it's faith or just how we're, moving forward and living our lives. I feel like it really will put things into perspective a little bit. So I love that we have that in common. As you moved forward, Dale, you mentioned before break about being in a marriage for 30 years and then that not turning out how you wanted. How did your faith come into play when it came to the separation and split from your first marriage?
It was actually strengthened at the end, but I will tell you, I was rocked to my core when it first started. She started talking about divorce in 2012, and it was like, what's this and where did this come from? I thought we'd just gone over, just had the best 10 years of our marriage. And so it was one of those things that just hit me out of the blue, and I just was rocked to the core. Fortunately, I'd already been in a relationship with one guy where I'd been helping him with some accountability on his part, right? And so it quickly turned around where he was keeping me accountable. How are you doing? What are you doing to pray? How are you staying? I miss you at church. What's going on? Those types of things. And so having an accountability buddy at that point was really critical for me. And one of the things that he said at the time, which I've always remembered, is you can get bitter or you can get better. And
Mm.
the way to get better is to lean into the Lord. And so it was one of those things that it was like, okay, I was just a very clear cut choice. Do I want to get bitter or do I want to get better? Well, if I'm going to get better, I've got to lean into the Lord. What does that look like? Well, for me, it looked like getting more accountability buddies. It looked like staying plugged into the church. I increased my service at the church. It looked like I actually put together an email list of like 50 of my friends. And I said, would you pray for me? This is what's going on. And I was just very open about what was going on, what I was feeling. I'd give them an update every week or two. And it was really amazing. I had been in a virtual world for so long, even at that point, that I had people all over the country that were praying for me. And I would just get a random email every once in a while that was just say, hey, Dale, I'm praying for you. Or, hey, Dale, I just felt like this scripture would speak to you today. And so just having that community and that support system was incredibly valuable for me. And so when the divorce was finally final in 2016, it was really interesting because it was final on March 7th. And about 2 weeks later, my boss at work came to me. I'd been asking, because I'd transitioned into some coaching anyway, I'd been asking to maybe go to part-time if we could work out all the details. And 2 weeks later, he comes to me and he says, that happened. And it was like, whoa, it took me back, and it was like, okay, God, is this really what you want me to do? Is this really the time? Is it, and I got a very clear, yes, go forward with it. And so that was kind of a real confirmation that I was not to focus on the divorce. God had me, and, I was just to pursue my dreams and my calling at that point.
Mm. I love how that worked out for you. I really do because sometimes it can there's this piling on of things that can happen. So we'll go through one thing and then next thing you know there's something else and there's something else and there's something else and then that's when we feel like how can we ever possibly get out of this? But I feel like a couple things that you shared in what you've just talked about is one that you reached out for support. You reached out for support. That's an amazing thing that sometimes I feel like people don't always have the courage to do because they don't want people to know, the insides of what's going on or whatever the situation is. Or sometimes it's just hard to ask for help. It's just hard to ask for help. Is that something that, like, did you have to push yourself to do that, or was that like, have you always been good at going, "Hey, I'm drowning over here"?
No, I think there's a pride issue in a lot of that. And, I did have to push myself. And it was one of those things that it was like, I, I was just in a season where I knew I could not face it alone.
Mm,
And I knew that it was bigger than me. It was outside of me. It was uh, more of a serious thing than I could ever do on my own. And so I was reaching out to the Lord for help, and I was reaching out to anybody that I felt like would be a good friend at the time for help.
Yeah. I love the synchronicity of of the network for anybody that's new joining us today. We have several shows on the network, and I really don't. I mean, I plan the episodes, but I never really plan these are going to be the intricacies of what we talk about, and they're all going to tie together. And we literally talked about so much of what you're saying already this morning on Project Joy Live, which I love. We were talking about specifically when you were saying, in a challenging moment, do you want to get bitter or better? Do you want, like, what do you want to do with this moment? It's okay if you want to sit, you need to sit in it for a little while, and that's what you decide to do, then that's what you decide to do. But where I'm at, I was like, I can't, that, me being bitter about a situation and participating in something that doesn't move me forward is not where I'm at this point in my life. I want to do the better part, not the bitter part. That's
Absolutely.
what I want to do. Brittany's like, yes, she was here this morning. She's like, it's all tying together now. It's wonderful. So as you've gone through the divorce and everything, and your faith has kept you grounded through a lot of these different things that you've gone through. When you got into the coaching world, did you automatically come out going like, I'm going to lean into my faith and tell everybody that I'm a Christian coach?
Actually, it pretty much was that.
Good.
Before, yeah, before I ever heard about coaching, it was 2007, and I heard about life coaching as a profession, and I looked into it real seriously. And I basically put it on the shelf. I said, it's not for me because everything I could find had no spiritual component at all. I was probably just looking in the wrong places or whatever, right? But 2009, I'm walking through half price books, and this book falls off the shelf and conks me on the head, figuratively anyway. But the book was titled Christian Coaching. And that led me to Professional Christian Coaching Institute, where I got my training. I got my first client in June of 2011, and have always had at least one client all the way through, even though I was working full time in IT all the way up until that incident in 2016. So it was one of those things. During the process, I'd actually gotten Coach Dale back in 2007, coachdale.com. I'd gotten the internet on it because I said that this may be useful at some point.
That was a long
And
time ago too. Wow.
yeah. And so I got it, and I was holding on to it. And I opened a bank account under Coach Dale, and I was doing some stuff, doing some assessments and things like that. And so when it got down to 2011 and I was taking these courses, they said, well, you really ought to have an LLC and all these types of things, right? And so I was doing that. And then it was like, okay, what am I going to name it? Am I going to name it Coach Dale and be secular, or am I going to name it something else? And at the time, I was really seriously into this song by Casting Crowns called Life Song. May my life song sing to you. And so I actually named my company Lifesong Christian Coaching LLC. Okay. And so I was making a statement at that point. Now, later on in 2014, 2015, I decided I needed to go and be able to go into secular organizations, and they might not like that. So I actually took Coach Dale and made it a DBA under Lifesong Christian Coaching. Okay. And so I get a little chuckle every time somebody pays a check to Coach Dale, and I deposit it into the bank account for Lifesong Christian Coaching.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. I love that though. And I think there's people that have had the same thoughts where they've come out blazing with, this is who I am, this is this is how I'm going to present myself, and then they're like, oh, but what if people don't like that? What if people don't respond well? What if people don't resonate with that? Like, what do you do to sort of, I don't know, talk yourself through those moments where you wonder if your pride and your energy towards who you are, like, it maybe it's too much for people. Maybe it's like, how do you talk yourself through that?
It is sometimes a case where you do have to talk yourself through it. It's not natural. It's not easy. But I have been in this intersection between faith and work since I actually started
Mm,
becoming and growing as a Christian. One of the very first things I did in 1998 was I actually told people that I'd been baptized, this was in a work context. And I remember one of the people that I was told it to. He was a Catholic person, and he said, "Well, okay, you're going to be in heaven, but you'll be on the other side of the wall." And I'm going, "What does that mean?" you know, I don't know where his theology was or anything. I haven't seen anything about that, but it was just funny to me the way that it did work out. Because I'd always been very open about my faith,
mm,
and I fell into this work faith thing. I have been following Faith Driven Entrepreneur for quite a while. I've been leading Faith Driven Entrepreneur groups. I've been a member of Follower of One, which is a way to take your faith into the marketplace. And so it's just been part of the communities that I've been a part of during this whole time. And so it's one of those things. It's like I've gotten bolder as I've gotten into the calling message,
mm.
because it's like, okay, I'm not really sure what my niche is or really what my coaching direction is or anything. So I was working with assessments for a while, and that could go anywhere. That could go into secular places. But since 2022, when God finally, after my 30 years of searching for something bigger and bigger and bigger, and finally getting to calling is what you're saying. Okay,
Mm,
God, all right, I'm focused there. I'm going to go with it. And so
yeah.
that's where I'm just focused. And if they don't want to hear my calling message, more power to them. I'm not anti anything. I'm pro Jesus.
Isn't that interesting in society today how when we share what we are for, what our pro message is, that it comes across to so many people as anti everything else, and that's just simply not what we're saying. That blows my mind.
It does. It does. And I think that's part of the problem with the world right now is that we're all yelling at each other. And what we
Yes.
need to do is we need to sit down and have a conversation.
Yes. Yes. I know for me and like my own spiritual journey, I've learned like we're so much more alike than we like to admit, but I think so many of us are on this quest to be different and individuals, and we're number 1 and we're the apple of God's eye, that our way is the way, that it's hard for us to want to admit that we have so much in common and that there really is a lot more common ground than we realize.
Yeah. I heard a phrase once, major on the majors and don't worry about the minors. You know, I mean, if you're taking a hill, are you going to die on that hill, or are you going to let the enemy have that hill so that you can take the more strategic one down the
Yes.
road?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love that. And talking about calling, we had a gentleman on the show several seasons ago that talked about how he's convinced that you don't need a passion. You don't need a calling, you don't need a passion. It's okay for you just to do whatever you're happy to do in the moment. And I loved his perspective because I was like, that's, to be able to just go with whatever your sort of is on the whim in the moment is great. But I have never, I also couldn't relate because I have felt that strong. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And so it sounds like I love when we can look back and see that that calling was actually there the
Hmm.
whole time. We were just covering our ears and
Yeah.
going about our way. Did it take an element of like, um, I don't know, did it take anything that felt outside of you to go ahead and go with that? Or did you feel like, oh, it's been here all this time, it's easy to just roll into this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
I believe that for anybody, or for not anybody, but for most people, calling shows up in small pieces. Okay. It's not like it shows up fully blown right to start with. For me, it was a 30-year journey. Okay. And a lot of that 30-year journey was, oh, God, you're telling me to get out of a comfort zone. Oh, I've already fallen into this comfort zone again. What's going on here? But the first one was actually 1992, before I actually was a follower of Christ. And I basically said out loud, this is just a job, not a career.
Mm.
And I realized at that moment that I was wanting something bigger than my just a job. I was wanting a career. And so over the next few years, I had made steps. I'd changed jobs 2 times and ended up changing jobs a third time, ended up getting baptized in 1998. I was taking all these steps and I didn't know where it was going, but I knew it was getting to something bigger and something more. And being on that journey for 30 years kept me motivated and kept me moving towards something. I
Mm.
wasn't sure what the something was. It's like they say, God's word is a lamp to your feet, right? You can see 1 or 2 steps and that's it. And so I was just taking those steps in faith, especially after I became a Christian. But it was an exciting journey. Um, it was a very uplifting journey, even through the divorce. It was a case where, okay, these difficulties are here to make me stronger and to give me a purpose that's going to lead to something even bigger. And, I went through the church where I was baptized was shut down about, 3 years later. Uh, I went through a startup in 2000 that ended up shutting down in 2004. All of these setbacks were all just stepping stones to something bigger, something different, something greater. So I really don't understand how somebody can say there's really no need for calling or passion or whatever. I mean, if that's the case, I'm going to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos all day long and binge watch stuff on TV, and I'm not going to get anything done, and I'm going to have a short and uh, very self-centered life. And
Yeah.
I believe that we're here to make a difference in other people.
Mm. I love that. I love that. And I think, I can there's so many people that come on the show that have different, different mindsets, different journeys than I do. And I don't always agree. I can respect their position and their, that's their own journey. And if they're, certainly if they're thriving and they're successful and they feel happy in their lives, then it's not for me to say, you know, whether or not they're doing things the right way. However, that was one, it always sticks out in my mind, and I'm like, I can't relate to this. I don't know what it's like to not feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing when I wake up in the morning. um
Yeah.
I would love to ask you from a faith perspective, and also if this is something that you work on with your clients at all. How do you know when the calling that you're feeling or experiencing or hearing is from God and not just really something Dale wants to do?
That's a tough question,
Mm.
and I can give you some steps on how to go about that.
Mhm.
Okay. One step is, uh, first of all, pray about it. See if God tells you anything about it. Okay. Second step is, does it contradict scripture?
Mm.
Does it apply? Is there anything in scripture that says don't do that or do that? And that was one of the tough ones for me with a divorce, because it's very clear in scripture that God doesn't like divorce. Okay. But it was also one of those things where I had to lean into it and leaned into some of the other things. Uh, Another step is there any opportunities going on? Is there open or closed doors? I mean, if you think you're supposed to go in this direction, but you keep hitting your head against the wall, is that really the direction you need to be going?
Mhm.
Okay. Because God can close those doors or he can open up ones that, are off on the side. So if a door is closed, be looking around, what's the other ones that are out there?
Yeah.
Um, Talk to godly counselors or godly coaches or godly mentors. Get other people's perspectives, because they see stuff that you don't. Um, and then, there's probably a few others that I'm forgetting just off the top of my head. But if all else is kind of neutral, what can you do that's going to take just a little bit of time, energy, and money? How do you do what I call a low cost probe? How do I explore? How do I take one step in that direction? I
Yeah.
don't have to I don't have to go a whole mile. I can just take one step and see if I see something different.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm actually going through those steps today
Mm.
with another opportunity that's out in front of me.
I love that. I love that. I think it's so important to have, if you're trying to figure out something in your life, it's so important to have a step-by-step process to be able to follow. And I think for those out there that are Christians and really connected to their faith and want to know, what is it that God has called me to do? You're just the person that can take them, be that accountability for them and take them through those steps to get to the bottom of things. I think it's, anytime we're trying to figure anything out, it's a challenge to go it alone because when you're in it, and I'm sure that you can relate to this from your own journey, when you're in your own trying to figure it out or time of crisis or whatever it is very hard to see outside of your little bubble.
Exactly. It so much is. So one of the things that God did bless me with at the end of 2022, I'd written the chapter in Next Level Your Life, but I'd not started the chapter for Transformational Journey yet. And God basically gave me a download, and it's a coaching system that I can take people through to help them find their calling.
Mm,
And it explores several different relationships. There's like 4 keys to it. And so just going through that process with me helps people understand exactly who they are, how God created them, and then why are they here on the world, on this planet Earth at this point in time, at this point in history, with all the chaos that's going on around us. And so going through that process with me has changed the lives of multiple people here.
yeah.
So.
I love that. I love that he gave you the exact course that you needed to take everybody through, and that it's things that I'm sure that you have taken yourself through as well. I think it's so important for us as leaders to walk our talk, and go through the things that we're teaching. You mentioned Next Level Your Life as well as the Transformational Journey. Tell us about these books, how you got involved with them, and what we can expect when we read your chapters.
So they are compilation books. They're put together by Kyle Wilson. Each one has 40 to 45 authors in them. 6 or 7 of those authors will be celebrity authors. They'll be people like Tom Ziegler, son of Zig Ziglar, or they'll
Mm,
be Simon Bailey. He's a nationally known uh, keynote speaker. Robert Helms, he's got like $750 million of real estate, and he hosts the Radio Guys radio show, uh, Real Estate Guys radio show. So, they've got celebrity authors. One of the books has Dennis Waitley has
mm.
written a chapter. So, there's some big names in here.
Any sports
Kyle,
fans, Chris Gronkowski. Okay, that's all.
Chris Gronkowski, that's right. Yeah, there are some sports people. There's a Navy SEAL in one of them. There's a whole bunch of other different people. Kyle Wilson was actually the marketing genius behind Jim Rohn.
Mm,
And Jim Rohn, he was making, I don't know, $400 a speaking engagement at a MLM company. And
mm,
Kyle Wilson got hooked up with him, and he took him to like $4,000 for a weekend type of thing or something like that. So, and took him from like 80 engagements a year to 150 or something like that. So,
love it.
just did him well, and has worked with Zig Ziglar and a lot of the big names, Darren Hardy, those types of people. So, yeah. So anyway, I had fallen into one of Kyle's email lists at one
Mm,
point or another, and I noticed he was putting out these books. And so I was kind of waiting around for the right time because I knew as a coach, I wanted to be in a book that sounded coaching like,
mm,
and so when Next Level came out, it was like, okay, that sounds like a pretty good title to be in. And then at the same time, my friend Andrew actually called up and said, "Hey Dale, can me and my wife spend the weekend, crashing in your bedroom because we want to go to Kyle Wilson's event?" And I'm going, "Oh, tell me about this." And so it turned out to be synchronicity. I don't think there's any coincidences. I think there's all God incidences. So this was definitely a God incident. And so I was able to go ahead and attend Kyle Wilson's event during that weekend as well with my friend Andrew and his wife Marissa. And it was like, this is a great group of people, and they all know about Jim Rohn. They all know about you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with,
Mm,
and so this was definitely a case where if I could be in this group, I was going to be up leveling my life,
mm.
and so that's what I did. I jumped into it, and then Next Level was fortunate enough to hit Amazon #1 bestseller in 31 categories, and
31. Holy cow.
yeah, and then Transformational Journey hit #1 in 60 categories.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. This is Next Level Your Life. You can check it out. We have the links down in the show notes for you to be able to purchase your copy of Next Level Your Life and the Transformational Journey. You have a beautiful way of writing, Dale. I really appreciate how you've shared in these. And you have there's one quote from you in here that says, "Life is a journey. Your dream is the compass. Passion is the fuel." I love that. I love it. It's inspired. I have a little bulletin board over here. I'm gonna print it out and put it on a little thing up there to remember. Um, were there other books in addition to these two? Or are you planning on doing more books? What's the plans for writing for Dale?
So those books came out in 23, Next
Mm,
Level in January and Transformational Journey in October. I actually published a book in February 2020 because I was trying to get more speaking engagements and I wanted to have a
mm,
book as a business card. And so that book is called The Identity Key. It's still available on Amazon, but it's out of date, and I wouldn't even recommend it for people. Honestly, it talked about assessments, and the world of assessments has changed so much in 3 years. I probably should do an update on it, but I don't know if I've got the energy or the drive to go do that.
It's got
Uh,
to be the right time, I think, for like I'm not a writer, and I really have to be in the right place to start getting things down on paper.
yeah, yeah, I am seriously considering doing a book on calling, just to put a lot of my thoughts down on paper, and so to speak. And so I may be doing that. Don't really have a timeline on it or anything like that. So, and then there's always possibly another Kyle Wilson book to come out. So
Love it.
we'll
Love
see.
it. I love it. Well, we're going to take one more quick break and listen to Dorothy Auger's For Love poem. And when we come back, we're going to talk more with Dale, find out where you can find him, how you can work with him, and what he has coming up in the near future. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart. I shall stand for love, for the world is wounded, not just my little piece of land, where I am mostly safe, where I am mostly well, but our world, everywhere, every day. I shall stand for love, because we need more light, not more death, not more power, not more bombs. I shall stand for love, so that our children are safe, so that our friends are sheltered, so that our borders are open. I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. We invite you to visit weshallstandforlove.world and visit the legacy and life of Dorothy Auger and her For Love poem. And thank you all for standing for love with us here on the Breakthrough Show Network. I've really enjoyed our conversation, Dale. As I mentioned off screen, I'm so inspired by your journey. And I think it takes an incredible amount of courage to stand in who you are, all parts of who you are, and just be, and I feel like you're able to be so effective in that way, but I also recognize that it takes an incredible amount of courage. So thank you for the work that you're doing in the world and for just being who you are.
Well, you're quite welcome. And I just feel like God wouldn't have it any other way right now.
Yeah, Love that. I love it. I would love for you to tell everybody, what are you working on right now? What do you have coming up in the near future? What can we expect to see from Dale in the coming maybe months?
Okay, I've been doing 5 day challenges here recently, and they're coming up about every 2 months or so. So I'm not sure when this episode's going. Well, it's going live, right? So
And we're live.
there's one. There's one coming up May 13th, and then probably another one in June, something like that. Maybe July. We'll see. 5 day challenges teaches you about my coaching framework, calling framework. Sorry, and the four different keys, and whether it makes sense for you to jump into maybe a coaching package with me, or maybe this just gives you a lot of confirmation about you're on the right journey. So those are like $150. If you email me, if that's a problem, if that $150 is a problem, you email me, I'll find a discount code. They'll knock something off for you. So you mentioned the stories from those books. If they just want just the stories, if they'll email me and ask for the stories, I'll be happy to send them the stories as well. So yeah, so uh, I'm generous. I'll help out anybody I can.
I love it. I appreciate that, Dale. And I look forward to seeing more from you in the future. And like I said, definitely check out these books, you guys, because they're really powerful stories, of course, from everybody that's in the book, especially Dale, because he's here with us today. And so make sure you guys check those out. And you can find them, like I said, the links are in the show notes, and they're in our Amazon shop now as well. So make sure you go check that out. What can people find when they go to coachdale.com?
They can find an old website that talks about some of the stuff I have been doing. But if they go to stepintoyourcalling.com, they can see a whole lot more of the new stuff that I'm doing. So stepintoyourcalling.com.
Stepintoyourcalling.com. Love
Yeah.
that. So listen, either way, you're going to find Dale and you're going to be able to connect with him, and it's going to be great, and you're going to find your calling, and life will be better. That's just what it is. I'm going to put the other one up on the screen there for you. So make sure you guys go check that out. Do you have any final words about passion, calling, faith, anything that you want to leave with our audience today, Dale?
I always feel like it's best to leave with this quote. Okay. What's the difference between an inheritance and a legacy? Well, there's a lot of right answers, but I like this one that is the difference is one word of two characters. An inheritance is what you leave to someone. A legacy is what you leave in someone. Go craft your legacy.
Oh, that's good. I have so many things. Listen, if I stitched all the amazing words that you've shared today on pillows, my couches would be full. That's what it would be. I love it. Oh, that's so amazing. So amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today, Dale, and your knowledge with us. And of course, your story and your journey. I really appreciate you being here. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the amazing things that you continue to put out there in the world. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jessica. It was an honor to be here.
Love it. Love it. Have I hope you have an amazing day. And all of you that are being here, I'm going to leave you with a couple of words. Thank you so much, Dale, for being here this afternoon. I'm really thrilled, you guys, that we've had another incredible episode today. I am always so blown away, as I said before, how all of the different shows tied together just beautifully. I couldn't have planned this episode better. And so I'm always moved by how God, the universe works in our favor on here on the network. As we wrap up today's inspiring session with Dale Young, I am reminded of the transformative power of faith and the journey towards finding and fulfilling our true calling. Thank you so much, Dale, for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your journey with us. Your story is a beacon of hope and a testament to what it means to live a life grounded in faith. Through Dale's experiences, we're reminded that our breakthroughs often come when we least expect them, emerging from the depths of our challenges and leading us towards a greater purpose. Dale's work, particularly in helping individuals discover their identity, embrace their community, and live out their calling, underscores the essence of what it means to experience a true breakthrough. As we look forward to continuing our exploration of transformative journeys, don't miss our next episode, The Journey Back Home, featuring Rochelle Rayner. So excited. And she will be on the Breakthrough Show or on Project Joy Live on Monday as well. Rochelle's story of returning to self love after overcoming personal challenges promises to be another profound exploration of what it means to break through to our truest self. Thank you again, Dale, for being such an amazing part of our conversation today. Thank you to all of you for watching or listening wherever you are in the world. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to make every day a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.